king. Leonardo felt a cloth on his head as one of the corks dried his hair while another one put a red robe onto his back. Please rise. He looked up to Rotzen, who bowed his head as Leonardo stood up. The ibis ran back to their original position and Leonardo appeared in the eyes of the nobles in red robes standing tall before them. One by one, they stood up and Leonardo saw the Sumiks in the entire hall with bowed heads including Yigida. A cork approached him and handed him a scepter, which was the scepter of the king of Igathansha. He held it with his right hand. Another cork came and handed him a book, the Book of History of Igathansha. He held it with his left. The last cork was holding a crown, but before he could have placed it onto Leonardo's head, he spoke. I do not know how I deserve to be your king. I do not know your traditions and I was just forced by circumstance to be with you and by this you made me a king. I accept this, but I need all of you to make me through and I am accepting this not in my desire to rule you but in my desire to save the family I know, a kind who took care of me, who taught me about the wonders of life, a kind that almost became extinct because of your own doing. They paid with their lives the stones that you enjoyed wearing and treated like wealth. They chose to live isolated from the world for many years for fear of other kinds, for their fear with the race of the Sumiks. Our own race hunted, tortured, and killed them for very selfish reasons, and it is your unknowing obligation to bring their trust back with us. It is your unknowing obligation to make them see that it is now right for them to be with us and with any kind. It is honorable that we bring them back to where they were, to give back their identities with life. I ask that we help them, and save the males from an impending extinction at the hands of the male Servius. The hall was filled with murmurs and everyone started to speak with one another, but no one was saying anything to Leonardo. It was customary for Sumiks to not speak a word to the king unless the king asked them to, until Leonardo saw Rotzen as if he wanted to speak. Rotzen, what is in your mind? Please, anyone, speak your minds out. I want to know what you want to say. Before Rotzen could speak, Orcital cut him off. Igathansha needs our soldiers and we need all our forces to stay with us. Besides, we do not know if the males are still alive by this time, but I doubt it being in the hands of the male Servius. Male Servius have invaded Bixar and the northern Red land, and now, some of them are in the land of the Vamiths. They are everywhere. Our soldiers may just die in an ambush, and it is better that we leave the outside world on their own war with the male Servius until we become certain that they will be safe to be out in unknown lands. Leonardo stared at the corks and few faces nodding their heads in agreement with Orcital. He bowed his head and there was silence. The king is right. We must help the males and the others. We need to help the weak against the unrighteous will of the invaders. It is our responsibility to Igathansha to keep this country safe, yes, but it is also our unknowing responsibility to protect our neighbors. Our soldiers are so much for us, and it is not wrong to send a few to other lands and give a hand. If we do not act to defend them, then no one else will do it for them. Leonardo, you can order our soldiers as you wish and they will obey. You do not need us to tell you what to do. You are the king and anything you say will be followed. He wanted to hear us. That's what I know, and I am saying what I believe is right for this country. We will just put the lives of our soldiers at risk if we send forces to unknown lands. We do not even know where in this world the males are, and it is safe and good for Igathansha that our soldiers remain and let the war outside take its fate. Let fate take its own course, Rotzen. Let other kinds defend themselves. Do not forget that when we were at war with the Bixers, no one lent a hand to us. We were on our own. It is just fair that they too take care of their own selves in a war in their own lands. You don't see it, Orcital. When all the lands fall against the male Servius, what will we be? The dress you wear, the food we eat, some of them came from the foreigners. They are peaceful kinds who wanted to have their own life too. If we don't do anything, what will Igathansha be? A country with a kind who closed their eyes to the death of their friends. Is this the way we wanted to be remembered? Orcital was about to speak more, but they were disturbed by the sudden presence of the ibiths walking in formation from the door towards the middle of the palace hall. All eyes were fixed at them as the formation opened, revealing a Sumi clad in red clothes. He was pale, bent shoulders and weary eyes. He looked very sick. It was King Asif. Everybody bowed their heads as Leonardo looked at the great and remaining king of Igathansha walked slowly towards him, with 2 ibiths beside him and Yegida who followed behind. Leonardo watched every step that King Asif made. His face revealed pain as he moved. King Asif was suffering from a rare disease called gobble that he acquired while in a safe house inside their northern forest. It was a virus that attacks the immune system and makes the body cells divide. It had no cure and anyone affected by it dies in a matter of time. The dreaded disease makes one age beyond the ordinary. Though frail and weak, King Asif went to the palace at Uvia to see Leonardo personally. As he got near him he looked upon his face studying him and went to his side. He looked at the great general of the Sumiks. Yegida, gather your force. We must help the males. All of you in this hall must remember that the world is at war. Igathansha is at war. The war out there is brought forth by an evil force who desires domination. If we let other lands fall into their hands it will only be a matter of time and they will also march into our soils. All the structures we built, the traditions we followed, the peace we enjoyed, will be destroyed if we will just be watching the invaders conquer our neighbors. The Bikesers learned from their war against us and we must forget what they've done. This is an opportunity for the world to see that the Sumiks will rise against any oppression and greed and will defend those that will be under its threat. This is the right time for the Sumiks to bring the males back in their normal living. I am so sorry for making a decision that made them suffer greatly. Everyone in the hall was silent. King Asif looked at Leonardo. You must tell Yegida where the males are and our soldiers will try their very best to bring them back. I will go with them. No, you don't need to. You just need to tell the soldiers where the males are and they will find it. You don't understand. It is not easy to reach the males for our forests are not friendly and the males are enclosed by invisible fortresses that can deceive anyone and get ambushed by the male servius. I know the way and I can lead the soldiers to safe paths. My king, he is right. Let him go with them. If there is anybody who can find the males it is Leo, King Leonardo. He knows much more the dangers ahead than our soldiers. Rotson gave a look at Orcatel who interrupted the king's conversations. King Asif waved his hand. It was a signal for everybody to give King Asif a space for himself and to anyone he would want to speak in private. The ibiths quickly moved towards King Asif and Leonardo enclosing them as they faced the nobles with drawn swords which square ends leaned the floor as Yegida turned his back against the 2 kings. King Asif grabbed the arm of Leonardo and asked him to walk with him at a distance. They headed near the altar where many statues of the kings of From were sitting on a throne. King Asif stared at each statue one by one. Then, he met Leonardo's eyes. I only have a few moments left with me. When I die the Sumiks will look for a king and if they find no one it will break the tradition. That will be the end of our culture. When I thought that no one else will succeed me I made Rotson the leader of Igathansha in case my illness prevailed upon me. However, I know that even with Rotson's leadership there will be resistance in due time against him for many will question his right as a corp to rule over the country. This will make Igathansha divide and this is the only reason why I desire to still live. I have been fighting death day after day and I was wishing that I can still see each sunrise for Igathansha until a new king is born. When I heard that you were found I rejoiced as I thought I can now die and join them. King Asif glanced at the statues of the kings fixing his eyes on King Herith. He turned his head back to Leonardo. I thought I was freed from the burden that Igathansha will succumb to chaos after my death when you came. You gave this country hope. You gave me hope. If you will go with the soldiers I know you may not return and that means I still need to live until a king is born but, that time I may not be able to see. I wanted you to stay safe but I also know that you are needed by our soldiers and therefore, I will let you go with them to save your family. I will do my best to live more until you come back and promise me that you, this time for my own kind, your race, will come back. The words of King Asif struck Leonardo so much. He felt his selflessness, sincerity and love for his land. I will but I cannot promise against fate if fate turned against me, but I will. King Nassif stared at Leonardo and smiled. He was seeing himself in him and some of the kings who raised him and make him like one. He bowed his head for a moment and looked at the statue of the greatest king he once knew, King Herith. I will be with you soon, my kings. I only ask that you give me more life for Igathansha. He spoke with his thought. He turned his back against the giant statues of the kings and waved his hand as the Ibiths half-marching went back in their respective positions. When the Corks saw the kings, they heard King Nassif giving orders to Yigada that made Orcatal smile that Rotson saw.